What's going on, YouTube? It's Mr. Young 702 checking in. Hey, yo, this is part 2 of why I say black culture is not derived from African culture. In part 1, I challenged everybody that if you guys can come up with legitimate reasons or legitimate arguments for why black culture is derived from African culture, that I would announce part 1 and make a part 2 video. This is that part 2 video, but guess what? I'm not denouncing nothing because y'all don't know what the hell y'all talking about. So, in this video, instead of me bashing you or anything like that, I'm going to take a couple of the main key points that I saw, and I'm kind of address them, and I'm gonna give you guys, since you following me or whatever, since you subscribe to me, I'm gonna give you guys enough time to speak what you have to say. Those 3 key points were: read a book, you dummy. It's no excuse for you to be for you to not know black culture or not know African culture. Read a book. Number 2, you genetically African. That makes African culture. Number 3, music, food, and a couple of other things that were actually legitimate arguments, and we'll start with there. It seems like the comment that came up the most was read a book. So instead of arguing back to you, because you're not apparently going to understand that reading a book don't help, I'm going to give you a scenario. Okay, and mind you, we're talking culture. We're not talking history. We're talking culture. So just peep the scenario and tell me if you agree. Okay, take me for instance. I was born in Louisiana, raised on the West Coast. My kids will be born on the West Coast, raised on the West Coast. My mother was born in Louisiana, raised in Louisiana. Is it possible for my kids to say, yo, son, I'm from Louisiana, genetically, because my dad is, historically, because my grandmother is, so that makes me a Louisianian? No, it doesn't. I don't care how many books on Louisiana they read. I don't care how many Mardi Gras history books they read. I don't care how much they know about the Louisiana state flag. The pelican is Louisiana's bird. Does not matter. If they have never touched foot in Louisiana, they are not from Louisiana. They are from the West Coast, where we are. And that's the same thing with us. I don't care how much I know that red is for the blood, green is for the land, yellow is for the sun, black is for the people. I don't care how many times I'm singing Funga, Alafia, Ashe, Ashe, Funga, Alafia, Ashe, Ashe. I can read up on Africa and tell you about apartheid, tell you about Idi Amin, tell you that Joseph Kony was a bad person. Even if I change my accent like this and I talk like I am African and I say I am from Africa, I am not an African because I have never lived in Africa. I can be genetically African. I can know all of Africa's history, but I will never, ever know Africa's culture. Mind you, this says the video was called Black Culture Did Not Derive from Africa. I will never know Africa's culture if I never live in Africa. I don't care how many books I read. The day I go back to Africa, I'm going to get shell-shocked. I'm going to be stuck. It's called culture shock. I'm going to be out of my, oh my God. I don't care. No, a book will only prepare me for it, but I will never really, truly even be prepared. Speaking of genetically, argument number 2 was people seem to believe that Africa is hidden in our DNA and waiting to be awakened. That, my friend, is called genetic memory. Here's the only problem with the genetic memory argument. Your genetics, remember Africa from 1600, right? Only problem with that is Africa in 1600 was a third world country, was a third world continent. Africa's not exactly a third world continent no more. Africa has mines. They got cars in Africa. Did you know that? You're going to get culture shocked when you go back to Africa and your DNA is trying to remember Africa where they was chucking spears and they had loincloths and they out there with jeans and white tees on wearing Timberlands riding around in Mercedes. You ain't going to know what the hell to do. So your DNA culture argument is invalid. So this person, T. Hodson's, man, woman, whoever they are, left me about 15 or 20 comments with little paragraphs and links to videos and expected me to read them all from the first one going backwards. And I refused to. So then T. Hoskins, like a good steward, thank you so much, because I was not going to read it if you didn't do it, copied all of those paragraphs and all of those links into and inboxed me all of that information, and I got some time to assess through it. I didn't look at it all because it was too dang much, and I don't have that much time. But I did look at a lot of it, and I'm gonna tell you one thing that stuck out was the music that they brought out. T. Hoskins told me about this African music that he or she could trace all the way back from Africa, and how it evolved into jitterbug, and how that evolved into modern jazz. What that proved is that we had to get our culture from other places. We had to go back other places and get our culture. So what that actually proved with that video was that we didn't get that part of African culture from Africa. We got it from the Caribbean, and the Caribbeans got it from Africa. Now, you want some historical proof of that? The slave trade, what they would do in the slave trade is they would take Africans, and they would take them from Africa, and they would take them to Jamaica. When these Africans got to Jamaica is where they broke their will, aka where they removed their culture. When they broke their will, they broke the semblance that they were actually men in Africa. They broke away the thought pattern that they were soldiers and they were warriors and they were killers in Africa. And that's where they became slaves mentally. That happened in Jamaica. That happened in Haiti. So by the time they got to America, they were a generation or two in Haiti already, in camps and villages and like basically like little prison forts. And then from Haiti and in Jamaica, after they had been a generation or two there broken, then they were transported to America, never actually having stepped foot on African soil. As far back as they can remember is Haiti. And now I'm going to rant. Quick timeline. There was slavery, and then the slaves were freed, and then the slaves moved north, and then when they moved north, they had a place where they could be free and not be so, even though they were still going through different levels of oppression and everything else, they still had a point where they were able to relax. So they started building their own culture. These are free blacks now, building their own culture. This happened in New York. More specifically, this happened in Harlem. AKA, this is what we call the Harlem Renaissance. In the midst of the Harlem Renaissance, somebody from guess where? The Caribbean, his name was Marcus Garvey, he was a Jamaican, came all the way to Harlem to remind the Harlemites that they were not black Americans, that they were really supposed to be African. Marcus Garvey was Jamaicans. Jamaicans also came from Africa. Why did Marcus Garvey not stay in Africa, stay in Jamaica, and get the Jamaicans to go back to Africa? Because the Jamaicans didn't buy it. So basically, what happens is Marcus Garvey comes to America and he's like, yo, go back to Africa. So everybody starts saving up money to get on this boat, and this boat was supposed to take them back to Africa. But the boat ride was so expensive that these people who were new and were trying to build up something, were basically all poor, couldn't afford the boat ride. But by this time, Marcus Garvey had already implanted into their heads that they hate this country, that this country was no good for them, that they would never thrive in this country, that they would never be nothing in this country, that this country was owned by the white man, and because of this white man, you will forever be oppressed in this country, and you need to go back to Africa. Then the boat left, and they couldn't go with the boat. So they stuck here, hating the land that they're in, even though this land is the only place that they have that they can grow. So, what came out of that? Self-hatred. What else came out of that? Prostitution, the drug epidemic, the crime epidemics in our communities, the fact that we blame white people every time something happens and never look at ourselves when we do the exact same thing. All of that comes from the fact that we have it installed in us from Marcus Garvey that America is our enemy. And even though America, we cannot deny the fact that we have been that we have been segregated against. We cannot deny the fact that pit bulls, that German shepherds and fire hoses were shot at children just so that they can get the right to ride a freaking bus and not have to sit in the back. Just This is children. We cannot deny the fact that black men were hanged for saying hi to somebody. We cannot deny Emmett Till. We cannot deny Martin Luther King. We can't. But at the exact same time, Martin Luther King's dream was never go back to Africa. Martin Luther King's dream was that we would get what we needed to get out of America, and we will be known as Americans. One day, black little boys and black little girls will be able to run down the red hills of Georgia. The sons of former slaves and the sons of former slaveholders will be entrenched in brotherhood. However the hell he said that. That was not a dream to go back to Africa. So now, you sitting in America thinking, I'm African. But you can't even tie yourself truly back to Africa. And you hate America. You do. And we teach these kids to hate America. Some of us hate America so much that we become doctors. But the majority of us hate America so much that we end up killing each other and we ignore the fact of it. Take Trayvon Martin, for instance. I think Zimmerman should go to hell. And I think Zimmerman should be driven through his heart with a hot poker and barbecued at the stake and fed to cannibals. But, a matter of fact, hell no. I think Zimmerman should be skinned alive and rolled in lime juice. But we cannot deny the fact that every day some little boy who looks like Trayvon Martin kills another little boy who looks like Trayvon Martin, and they're both 17 years old. That gets no national coverage. That does not upset our community at all. We don't riot. We don't threaten the police department. We say stop snitching. Don't say nothing. But then as soon as Zimmerman kills somebody, look at how the white man oppressed us. Do you believe what this white man is doing to us? They will not kill our children. But your children is killing your children and you ain't even doing nothing. That's because it's been in your head engraved that the white man is your enemy. And you've been looking at the white man being your enemy for so long, you can't even tell that in your heart, you are really your enemy. If you think I'm lying, if you believe that I am lying, go look up Chris Rock's interview with Al Sharpton. In the interview with Al Sharpton, they got on black neighborhoods and how the white man did us and everything else. And Chris Rock kept asking Al Sharpton a simple question. Why don't you clean up the ghetto? Why don't you get the graffiti off the walls? And why don't you clean up litter off the streets? All of those times, all Al Sharpton could say was, the white man did it. The white man this, the white man that. I don't give a damn how many white people put us in the ghetto. They never made us right on the walls. I don't care how many black people they put us in the projects. They never told us to piss in the elevator. I don't care how many times white people told us to live in tenement houses and everything else. They never told us to sell crack out of them. And well, they kind of did that. And they never told us to throw trash on the streets. We did that on our own because we have no pride where we are. So we poisoned ourselves where we are. So because we feel like Africa is our home and America isn't, we are killing ourselves. We're in a place where we can actually be living. We're in a place that we can survive and do so much better things. Instead, all a black man aspires to do is play basketball, rap, go to the military, and sell dope. Come on now. If you start looking at America as a place where you can actually thrive and actually grow and be something, then nigga, you'll be something. Get off your ass and stop blaming these freaking white people. Stop looking at these white people like they some bad and so big and bad and they done destroyed us. We are destroying ourselves more because we don't even view our home as our home. Culturally, we are not African. Genetically, hell yeah, I'm African. Genetically, I'm African all the way. Historically, yeah, I'm African. But but culturally, if I go back to Africa right now, I'm going to be culture shocked. I don't care how many books I read because I don't know Africa. And so instead of me acknowledging the fact that instead I'll just poison myself, kill myself, and do anything stupid that I can. I'm Mr. Young 702. I hope you appreciate this video. I hope you got something out of it, and I'm out.